Now we're going to spend the next now 45 minutes or so, and then actually after the break in a follow-up session, really talking and going into different areas of battery supply chain, battery technology, and what it means both for the logistics and for the wider value chain. Because as you will hear, as you all know, there is tremendous change. There's a huge pipeline of gigafactories being built in Europe and globally right now, which of course will change many aspects of the network. When it comes to logistics, this is not your grandmother's supply chain. This is not 6,000 parts in an engine. This is not always the same processes, equipment, technology that perhaps we're used to. This is not news to you, but this is now, I think, going from the planning into the reality. And that's what's really exciting. We call it an electric shock to the supply chain. So be careful where you stick your fingers. But I think if we work together, we can really charge it forward. And we're going to bring shortly on an expert panel, but to kick us off and to set the scene, I'm very pleased to welcome our first speaker on the battery. Some of you will know our next speaker from the Volkswagen Group Logistics, where he worked in various functions, including digitalization, across the group-wide consolidated network. But at the beginning of this year, he took on a new role within a new function, within a new division, a new subsidiary, I think should even say, of the Volkswagen Group. Matthias Braun, who's head of battery cell logistics, and is the exciting opportunity to build a gigafactory supply chain together with his colleagues and together with all of you. Matthias, I'm going to bring you on now so you can give us some insight into what's happening, and then we'll bring on our other experts to talk it through. Yeah. So thank you so much, Matthias.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, hello everybody. Great to be here back again live on stage here with the Automotive Logistics Supply Chain Congress. It's really exciting times, I think, for all of us within logistics. And my perspective is more focused on this transformation of the automotive industry and also on our automotive logistics supply chain that we have within the Volkswagen Group as our strategy, which was this morning also part of the discussion and the presentation that we've heard, that the OEMs have to change their production quite tremendously. And we within the Volkswagen Group have also our strategy, if it's just only for the stock and their shareholders, or it's also for internal motivation. I think it's real. Nevertheless, where the motivation comes from, it's no way back than just making a quite tremendous change in our productions. We will change it within the next years. You can see it on the slide with all the models that we have, the ID family from Volkswagen Group, the L-Born from Cupra, and Audi and the others also, you name it. So therefore, you can already see it. And it will be a continuous progress in this topic in the next years. But this is not only the only topic why I'm now in a new role for battery production. It's also, if you go more in detail on that, what is the car about? And if you look at these numbers here, 40% of the value of a car is the battery. And I think this is a good motivation for stepping into that business. Because otherwise, somebody else would take the business, and you can see it also on the slide. The market is dominated by a lot of Asian competitors and production companies that are doing that business. And during lunchtime, also we had a discussion why it is necessary to step into that business. Well, at the moment we are producing engines and transmissions because this is some kind of differentiating the models that we have in the same platforms. And in the future, it will be the charging time and the energy density and how long can we drive with our electrified car. So let's put it back to our core business and make this our core business. Now, having started that strategy for us, we have to set up a network of production sites because we don't have them. We have to learn how to produce them. And we have to start making our production sites. And the production sites now, we have our core plant, our headquarter for all of these things will be done in Salzgitter. And as Christopher mentioned, it's once in a lifetime. It's building up such kind of production network, and for me, who's living in Wolfsburg, it's once in the history of the whole family, let's name it like that, to make it in front of my hometown and not moving towards Asia or somewhere else. I think this is also a big commitment from the Volkswagen Group to Germany as an industry nation, and to put this future topic as in front of our houses and not somewhere else. We have decided to make a production site in Spain, but also there will be some more to come within Europe. And let's see what North America and other regions will be there in the future. But I think there is a lot more to come that you will be also informed in the next month, when we have our plans more mature. From a logistic perspective, one thing is to build up the network, the production network. The other thing is what kind of material do we have to work with. And when I first got into contact with that topic, I said, well, I come from assembling cars with 5,000 of part numbers, and that's the complexity, and that's the joy of the everyday life and working in the complexity. And yeah, you can count them, and you will know each and every part number within one day, and all of the suppliers also. But the complexity comes from another topic. It's the material, the type of material that we are handling, and how it should be treated. I will come to this later on. And also the steps of production, the battery cell, and also the cell module and the battery system will be then something that you have to implement in your value chain as a total. So therefore, this is the kind of complexity that we have to deal with. And if we compare it, and Salzgitter is one of our biggest, or is the biggest engine plant, and we have to transform this factory from a traditional engine plant to a battery cell production site. A lot of people have the same problems and say, hey, it seems like sandboxing and a playground. We have engines, 300 devices that we have to handle, and engines which just only have 10 different battery cells, approximately. We have another complexity that we have to handle in logistic topics, because an engine is produced every, let's say, 30 seconds to 1 minute. But a battery cell, every second, there is one newborn battery cell that we have to handle. The manufacturing technology will change dramatically. And it just only won't change for the technology, but also for the environment that we have to set up in our factory, if you look at that. And the complexity of logistics, you see the numbers and you see the topics of complexity that we are used to. And we have learned and listened also in the finished vehicle topic about the transformation. Now we have the big chance for disruption, not only for transformation, because we can make really things new. And coming from that topic, one more in detail insight about that, what changes we face coming from a traditional OEM, 5,000 parts per car and 3,000 cars a day from a traditional car factory. We do have a complete different supplier structure, completely different. They don't know us, we don't know them. And it's the distances that we have to cover are quite different. It's not locally produced, because the main cell production is still Asia. In Europe, we are still the ones to, we have to prove ourselves that we are able to produce them, and there's not that high motivation for suppliers to come to Europe at the moment with their goods, because the main customers are sitting in Asia. The incoming material, the good structures are also different. We have our KLTs and GLTs, the beautiful blue boxes and whatever kind of boxes that we are using. In 90% of the cases not useful for us in our environment. And we have to also to deal with, well, not only with other boxes and containers, we also have to deal with the structure of the goods, hazardous goods, more liquids, more bulk rates that we have to deal with, and so the challenge comes from this diversity within the goods structure that we have. And also we have to take care about the cleanliness requirements that we have. This is one of the biggest issues. And then we have to make like the onion tactic from the incoming goods, from the warehouses, transport from warehouse then to the production, etc. And every time you slice it. And this is one of the topics that we face with the incoming goods. With the production surroundings, dry and clean rooms, to be honest, never heard about that. And specific requirements on that, and how you get into that clean and dry rooms with your normal trucker trains, and how to make the handshake with the HGVs there. Quite new challenge that we have to face. The broken traffics that we have to face, what I've mentioned, by handing over the parts from the normal environment to a dry and clean room environment. And we have a huge and a big, high automation degree there, surely, because nobody wants to work in a dry and clean room environment. Otherwise, you look like the things that you see from China during the COVID situation. You are really dressed like a puppet. So therefore, we have to deal with that. We cannot do it, a lot of things manually. We have to assure a highly automated process on that. And the transport concepts, yeah, sure. Sending out batteries with this high density of energy and a huge amount, every second one cell. And those of you who have an electric car, you can count your cells, how many you have, and the kilowatt hours and the gigawatt hours that we are producing and storing. I think reasonable that this is not that easy. And if we are transporting goods that are for a cleaner environment on mobility, I cannot use one of the EU5 trucks or EU6 trucks. This would be ridiculous. So therefore also a big chance and not a big challenge, a big chance for changing things. To assure that and to make, to cope with our ramp up of the time frame that we also seen this morning from the governments and the EU that force us to be more, to be faster in this development. You cannot create every single plant on an individual land plot and everything. So we have to standardize our way of producing our factories. And this, I also learned some new words like downstream and things like that, and all the production technologies that you have seen on the previous slide. So therefore, we have to standardize the product that we have. That's why we don't have so much variety in the battery cells. We have to standardize all of our factory layouts, and we have also to standardize our way of transporting and making our logistic chains, without going too much in detail, because this would probably be a complete session on its own. Just to give you a quick view that we do have to handle these goods probably a little bit different, but this gives us a good chance because we are designing our layout with a huge impact and a good possibility for us as logistic team to not to repeat the failures that we have made in our old plannings for the car production, where we also have been removed to some external warehouses. We are an integrative part of that. And sure, we have in the inbound volume, we have to do with silos that come, with normal trucks that come, with some smaller goods. But the main volume should probably, hopefully, be with the trains to come in. We have then also to, we don't have the goal. We have a clear commitment that all the outbound flows will be by train. All of them. And the good thing is, with all of our land plots, all the site visits and the searches that we do in Europe and also probably in other regions, a rail track is mandatory. Is really the thing that we need, and there is no discussion about it. And that's something that we really can do by designing it new. And well, cell packaging is also a different thing that we probably touch later on in the discussion, because you have to cope with other requirements that we have. So therefore, for setting a scene a little bit about what our thoughts and our motivation and our changes are in the process, and also in my way of thinking for making logistics for battery cell instead of making it for assembly production. That's all from my side, so thanks for your attention. And
Thanks to you, Matthias. I think that's the perfect way to open this up and give us some overview of the changes that you're facing. I'm going to bring our panelists on in just a moment. Although whilst I have you, maybe quickly, just to follow up on one point of that, how is that this different approach impacting the way that you work with your logistics providers in terms of how you plan these RFQs, how you scope the network? It's a different process, I imagine, to what you've done with previous.
The different approaches to start the planning activities in a collaboration with them, in a partnership. I know we have made several discussions on that. I don't like the wording of having service providers. I like to have partners to be part of the supply chain, because we need to act in one environment, and that's why that's the big thing. We have to make our process concepts, etc. But then the next step is really to challenge them with our possible partners. That's why I'm here also to open up the discussion with everybody of you, because we have our different experiences and our different views on that. And I think nobody's that mature that somebody can say, hey, we have the best way of doing it. And we are all conditioned with the Toyota production system, lean processes, whatever. And the times have changed, and we have to think in a new way. And this is the big possibility to bring all the different views on that and to make that.
And I think that's a great time to bring some partners onto stage. So I'd like to invite others involved in this process who also have some expertise and insights to share, join our conversation. Jürgen Grau, who's the Senior Commercial Director for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Orbis Europe. Jürgen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Antonio von der Wille, Global Head of Vertical Automotive for Maersk, of course a key container line, but working across this area as well. Thank you, Antonio. So we'll now go into, thanks very much. Have a seat, gentlemen. I'm going to start with the point that we just discussed with Matthias, which is this new approach to working with partners on in many cases, greenfield, although interesting case with Salzgitter, which is also a brownfield conversion, but nonetheless, scoping out this new supply chain in Europe. Has it been a significant change for your companies to partner with battery manufacturers, in this case, perhaps OEMs who are going into this space like Volkswagen, and to help meet automotive requirements as we still need them in the supply chain? Maybe I'll start with you, Jürgen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, packaging, standard packaging is more or less an order delivery business. When we finished our first battery transportation project more than 2 years ago, we recognized, oh, wow, that's a little bit more. So the impact on overall process is huge. So let me provide maybe 3 examples on organization, on operations, and on our own supply chain. On organization, for instance, we need to add project management, because the projects are very complex and take a lot of time. Operation-wide, we need to have to look to our warehouse. Matthias did mention it already. Cleanliness is key. It's a very important factor. We need to add additional people to handle additional processes. And supply chain related, we have additional suppliers up to the independent institute who is doing the certification.
Yeah, absolutely. Antonio, from Maersk's point of view.
Yeah, from our point of view, I think it has been Maersk as an integrator of the containerized supply chain has been, I would say, like a mediator in some cases. So those new suppliers that we call it, they are not such new. They are working really hard. We are one of the things that we found is that EV is not just about technology. It's not just about high tech. It's about cultural clash. Yeah, there are other mentalities. This, Matthias has mentioned before, suddenly there's someone that has 40% of the value of the supply chain. So you need to interact and mediate. So it's not about having problems to educate or working with those ones. It's mainly about how we are setting in the all supply chain and how we can flex that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps I use the words new too often. It's new to automotive in many cases, but of course it's not. And I think, Matthias, we've spoken about that. You're a supply chain which is increasingly looking much more related to the chemical industry, working with high-tech electronics. So one of the things I've encountered talking with companies is that they're new to automotive and they're not always used to the same standards which were involved in an SOP. And likewise, you are going to have to adapt to theirs. So can you talk a little bit more around, again, how you find that, bridge that culture divide, perhaps, that Antonio's referred to?
Well, probably we should talk about that in 1 year, because we have now started the sourcing process on that. But looking at the list of the possible suppliers on that, 95% are unknown to us. 95%. So if you want to go there and talk to them with your normal questionnaire that you have and asking for the traditional things that we all know from the automotive world, I think you won't be that successful on that, and all of them would be rated with a C in our language, so that they won't be nominated. But we need them, so therefore. And on the other hand, it's for me it's more a chance than a challenge, as I've mentioned earlier, because we can learn so much from them. We can learn so much from them, and not using this classic EDI format in communication. Not using this traditional way of I send you an order and you send me the parts, and I want to have the global transport label, and if you don't do that, you get some invoice from me. Really to make it new on a partnership way and to improve our processes. Because if we are honest to ourselves, automotive logistics is quite excellent on efficiency and on the material flow. But the rest is still 80s. And that's a big possibility that we can use now, because we are greenfield. We don't have to challenge ourselves by making a business case for the change that we want to do. We are starting from greenfield. And I want to learn a lot from this new industry, from the new partners, to make things, to bring the best from both together. And that's the best thing. But ask me in 1 year again how this approach worked out.
Yeah. Well, as you say, perhaps by the standard automotive ranking, it would be a C. But interestingly, how they might rank an OEM might even be lower on their list.
Yeah.
Antonio, Jürgen, I wonder, I see companies like yours perhaps as bridging companies to help bridge those gaps. These are for Maersk. I'm sure you've worked across types of these companies and other verticals too. Where do you see the opportunity from a logistics point of view to bring a flavor of that automotive efficiency, but still adapt the agility that is needed in this space?
Wow, that's a question. I think I'm just going to rephrase what Matthias has mentioned before. Yeah, it's a learning experience, and it's really great to have a learning experience after 20 or 30 years in the supply chain, and we now started to learn. Yeah? One of the things that we are seeing and we are facing is, probably we can touch about later on, is about regulations. And when that comes across, say, automotive standards you mentioned before, and I say, do we have automotive standards? Yes, we do. But what about the battery and the dangerous good and these regulations in Europe? So this is something that we should definitely discuss as well.
Yeah, from a packaging point of view, most important is the 100% quality standard. Yeah, if the packaging is not right, if we have contamination, if the tolerances are not where they need to be, we have a stop in the assembly, finally, at the end of the day. So that's something which is, when we talk about efficiency, to keep the assembly line running, I think it's quite important. And what we see more and more is the need for inventory building. Yeah, which hasn't been so important in the past for standard packaging, but for battery transportation it is.
So that's an interesting point. And Matthias, just before we brought the panel on, you alluded to perhaps needing to take some different approaches to more traditional, still highly effective. And we're going to talk a lot more about TPS tomorrow, so watch out. And certainly far from obsolete. But why do you see some differences? What are some examples of how this might change as you go deeper? And I know it probably depends on what year I ask you the question, by the way. But from this year's point of view.
This year and next year, we could just only look at what we've said this year. No, but we do need different approaches. The global situation requires that. I mean, that's for sure. Lean logistics is not one-piece flow because the pieces don't flow the way they have flown previously. And that's why we have to think about making it more intelligent. Gina and the others talked about more transparency in the supply chain and more collaboration in the supply chain. This is one of the key topics that we have to change tremendously. I don't want to have a control tower that is singularly just only from the service provider. I want to give the service provider also my information that he knows if the expedite is really necessary or not, even if we have a contract for assuring a 48 hours delivery. Probably 48 hours are fine with a 50 minutes time windows. We've discussed it with the Time Matters colleagues. Fine, but then the truck or the driver waits 5 hours in the unloading zone because it's not that urgent as it was said 2 days ago. And these are the things that we have to change dramatically. We also have to change in our physical material flow, as you've mentioned, more intelligent stocks and warehouses, buffers, to name it like that. In our case, we need to have more thermal transports and more this kind of requirements that we have to face. We have to cope with them in an intelligent way to design this new supply chain on that. So these are the changes. We have physical requirements, we have process requirements that we can, with the expertise from the last 2 years, we can bring in, and we have, I think, in the digital world, some possibilities that we haven't grabbed in the last months or years, but we have talked about them a lot.
Absolutely. Matthias, you alluded to automation, areas of high automation. I'd like to unpack that just a little bit and then go through it with the panel. So do you see that largely in the battery cell side of the production, or kind of also then carrying through into the warehousing and then through to the module building in terms of logistics? So can you point to where you see some of this automation?
There's a huge need for automation. If you go into a dry and clean room and you have their environment, well, I'm logistic, I'm no chemistry or physics, I'm out of that. But if you put in one person in a dry and clean room, you increase the amount of energy that you need to bring this environment. So based on that, we have to reuse that. We are facing the lack of experienced people and shortage of people, so therefore we can use the opportunity also for making more automation in this operative processes. I'm not dreaming of a dark office, not at all, because logistics still is a people-driven business, and I don't want to remove all of us, only if it's just only coming for a congress here to Munich, but being here part of it. We need people in that process, but we have to support them better by using modern ways of technologies. And I'm also a big fan of dreaming of automated trucks that are supporting us in process steps where it really makes sense. I'm not a fan of making just automation for automation, but or technology for technology. You will hopefully never see an article from me which says we have implemented artificial intelligence and I cannot prove where the added value comes out of. So it always has to be proven by an added value that we bring in.
Jürgen, maybe we can look at that on some of the packaging areas. Are you looking at implementing different areas for packaging automation within the battery cell supply chain?
Yeah, absolutely. As we learned, 40% of the vehicle is the battery. So you can imagine all quality apartments, they will have both eyes on the battery during the whole process. Automation is key. I appreciate what Matthias said, people are key for the whole process, but automation is necessary to improve, or let's say to target 100% quality. We have automation in place. Our customers, they have automatic storage, retrieval systems. They have automated ground vehicles, for instance. The packaging, for instance, is scanned with sensors at the bottom or the side panels on tolerances before moving into the process, for instance. Maybe you can show a short video, please.
Yeah, if we can play the video.
Just accompanying when it pops up. See, I can.
So I think it'll come on in a moment, and then we can.
Yeah, it's just a general video showing the loading and unloading process, which is not related to any customer project, by the way, of course. So it's all general. But these processes needs to be completely automated, and that's the status already today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and next level, looking to the future already, would be where can we even, in order lessons learned, improve. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up, guys.
Yeah.
Where can we even improve, let's say, automation when necessary?
There we are.
No, it's coming.
Yeah.
What we see here is this is just an example of a bulk bin. And we see the damage. This was the top case, and here we see battery cells. Just an example, not customer related, as I said, automatically loaded. And then we have the top of the bin as well, and it will work the way around. Here you see the inlet. Yeah. And this is so important when we talk about automation and we talk about complex projects, that from the very beginning of these projects, the whole value chain is involved. Mm-hmm. So that's the battery manufacturer, it's the OEM. These are companies supporting the automation process in order to make sure that we have the same dimensions, we're talking about the same tolerances, and they're using most likely the same equipment.
Mm. Thank you for that example. Antonio, do you see other areas in the wider supply chain where Maersk is working, where you also see important automation opportunities?
Yeah, of course. I can give you an example, a real one, in the warehouse for batteries that we are setting up in the north of Germany. We are already designing to implement, or we're planning to implement, mini cranes, conveyors. Remember this stuff is quite heavy, yeah? So trying to avoid any risk and health and issues with our employees, as well as narrow aisles, trying to handle as much as we can with automation up to a point. This is a clear example of the automation applied to this type of new logistics. Yeah,
absolutely. Matthias, I think in previous lives you've been quite close to the standardized container network, as you referred to, systems to help coordinate that, as you talked about Volkswagen's lovely network of KLTs and things. But this is an ambition now in the back. I mean, obviously it's not the same equipment, but the ambition is to do something similar to create a standardized network of packaging.
Sure. I want to bring all the good things from the network thinking and the synergies from the Volkswagen Group that I've learned and in the last years to this new network of battery cells and the community of battery cell production companies and service providers, partners, whatever. And it's the same. It's the same approach, because we have to be. At the end of the day, logistics always is about efficiency in many aspects, on money, on CO2, and whatever, and time. But and therefore it's necessary to do so. And we are talking about several production sites that we have. We are talking about several suppliers that we have, and also customers that we have to serve. And that's why we have to create our own network, or integrating this to a bigger network, and to make even the network effect higher by using other partners within that network. And sure, yeah, and we try to make the best synergies out of the process within the group or another community that serves us best.
Great. When we talk about regionalizing, localizing battery cell supply chain in Europe, of course, upstream is not always going to localize in the same pace. There's mining that needs to happen. There's materials around the world, the anode, cathodes. It's a complex supply chain in and of itself, and one that is quite global, likely to remain quite global. Antonio, maybe interested from your perspective how Maersk is serving this upstream supply chain in the battery side, and what special requirements you're working in that side in that global view.
All right, I think just being a bit back to where we were before, I think Europe independency for batteries is still a little way to go. Yeah. We have seen Matthias and the gigafactories coming over probably, but depending on the studies, is 5 to 10 years. Yeah. So what we have done and what we are doing is working with the biggest battery supplier of the world, bringing already their batteries into Europe, using controlled temperature, thinking about dangerous good, always in mind, and as well applying a control tower technology that provides visibility and the ability to accelerate the vessels to get into the port, because we know it's foreseen there's going to be a shortage of dangerous good warehouses in Europe. As I mentioned before, regulations, let's say, I'm going to say, is unclear around Europe. So we need to prepare ourselves for what is going to happen. So what we have designed is a product which is called FlexHub, that we can flexibilize not only with depots in the terminals and control temperature of the containers, but as well shipping the containers, shipping the goods as needed, being able to become a flexible supply chain, accelerating or decelerating to try to avoid congestions in ports, in transportation, and in finance. So already ongoing, working since last year, and looking forward to continue working towards the end of the year and more about.
And Antonio's of course right. Matthias, I think SOP even for the Salzgitter is still a few years away, and at the same time the ID3, ID4 buzz, it's going. So clearly already working within the existing supply chain and working with that. To what extent to lessons and understanding of the complexities, especially when it comes to dangerous goods, for example, you apply from that into the greenfield understanding and the greenfield planning of the plant.
It seems that we are far away from production, but just only to comment on that. It's not that far away because we have to be ready with all of our in-house installations when the dry and clean rooms are closed, and this will be by next year. So not that much time for planning, and even if we don't know the real specification for all the equipment that is producing then the battery cells, it's getting a little bit hard to define what kind of HEVs we are using and how they are communicating, etc. And also acknowledging that we will use any kind of IT system from the group and will build it up also from the greenfield. This is something that we don't have that much time to come back to that point. And your question, what we are doing, how we try then to implement that with our concepts and our processes there with the different parts that we have there. We have to start thinking differently. Out of the box is well, the new normal also in our planning activities. I mean, my team is, let's say 90% are coming from the old world in the Volkswagen Group, and it's brilliant to see how good they are in changing their mindset. Because this is one of the keys that we say, I cannot take out of the box the solution A, B, and C, and then we can. They are able to know what's in the box and then transfer it to the new requirements that we have. And this is one of the key elements, and I'm really proud of the team that is now with the starting position with me to develop that. And we use the things that we know that are working quite well and adapt them to the future. And this is one of the key aspects that we use there.
Absolutely. So the floor obviously does remain, and I knew it. We're going to come to Greg, who, by the way, after the break will also. So can I have a mic come to the front, please? Our team is not as agile as the battery supply chain at the moment, but we're getting back. As we're waiting for there, just a quick preview. After the coffee break, we'll have a session with Greg from Airbus looking at the future of battery technology. Because as much change as we're talking about now, we don't know what it's going to be in 10 years when we get into other technologies, which is also different.
Hi guys. Thank you very much, Chris. Greg Ombach from Airbus. I have a question to Matthias, because, and not only to Matthias, also to guys from the supply chain. If we are talking about the battery systems, you are applying now the new factory with the new flow of the logistic in factories. It means you took already the assumptions that this is not going to change over the next couple of years. It means you are almost fixed to the technology which exists today. And my question goes, if we would be able, as the industry, to make the standard in area of the battery components, not only cell level, but even here we are not there, but on the module level, then the life of these guys on the right-hand side and the life of the end customer would be much more easier.
Yep.
If we are talking about future reparation, if we are talking about, for example, the remanufacturing or all of this stuff. Are you guys on the path to make the standard, global standard with other OEMs, or you believe that the battery is going to be as unique as a combustion engine and everybody has their own stuff in the car? Thank you.
Well, let's switch to the other conference of the R&D experts who are working on that. I think I can answer that question too, so sorry for that, because this is not my home turf there. But at least what we try to do, which helps in our life within the Volkswagen Group, we are producing a unified cell for our main platforms that we have. And this would ease up our lives tremendously if we have the complexity of engines that we have at the moment within the Volkswagen Group. And if there might be industry-wide standardization, I'm not sure. This is a personal opinion, so don't take that as a Volkswagen opinion. I'm not sure because the differentiation of the electrified car is what you see when you get into the car, but then also what is under the car with the energy density and the charging time, etc. So not sure about that.
Indeed, I love the question. Great question. Fantastic. So, and very diplomatic answer, by the way, Matthias, so well done. I was participating years ago at the VDA and even on the European Association of that design groups for standardizing packaging. We're talking about KLTs, something like that, including the track and trace technology, RFID, and all these things. I'm not sure if you have seen after many, many years any kind of results. So unfortunately, that's just my observation from outside, is it is difficult or impossible to bring everybody under one umbrella. We would love it, of course, as well from the packaging side. It would make your life easier as well.
It will definitely. It will be very, very helpful as well. And I think I cannot add anything else, Jürgen, too much to say. And as well as we mentioned before, legislation. We are far behind in European legislation about what to apply, where to apply.
Yeah, but Antonio, I think what we can do, and this is the logistic part of the answer that you haven't answered question, but to bring it to that topic back, what we could do probably is, as we are now creating a new network within this battery community, let's name it like that, with new suppliers, new partners that could come, or partners who are enlarging their network and their footprint in the supply chain. Probably we can be able to set up a new standard of communication.
That's a good point.
This would be, I think, the first thing that we should aim to do, and not focus us on things that we have done since the 70s, but work on a more modern way for interacting and interchanging information. This would help a lot. Even the sizes of the boxes might be different. Probably the sizes could be the same because we have the same containers, we have the same trailers, so probably this could be the lowest level of standardization, but at least this would be a name that we should chase for, that we go for that direction and make it more neutral from the customer or from the OEM side, more to open API communication, cloud communication, whatever there is possible, microservices that can be used. This would be then the logistic answer to standardization.
So we have we'll get the mic over. I think I saw a question there in the middle first. Was it still there? Whilst we're getting it there, so we'll take that question. And
Hi, Alexander Otto, DSV. Matthias, you mentioned you're going for, let's say, new solutions. What I'm interested in is, are you considering already the return or the end of life challenges that you're facing with battery transportation? Because getting the battery produced and to the consumer is one thing, but we're already seeing that in some markets that we're having a return. And it's a question as well to the other gentleman up on the podium is, do you consider, for example, and Antonio, do you consider this challenge in terms of load devices, not necessarily only containers, but whatsoever? And you, Matthias, is there considerations in your load devices? You said the target is to have one battery container in the group. Are you looking at that container for its usability on the return? Challenges as well?
If I start, sure. The outbound containers with our finished battery cells is a standard for the whole Volkswagen Group, and we will implement it also to our, let's say, external battery cell providers. So that's a standard that we will set because of automation. It's just only, we have our equipment and they need to have the same sizes, same dimensions. And as we have our container network in Europe for the KLTs and GLTs, that's the same. And so we will build up that also. Another aspect of your question, I'm not sure if I took it right, is about circular economy is also a huge driver in the overall business case and the overall strategy that we have. Circular economy, sure, from the battery backwards, but also in let's say, the waste and scrap that we are producing within our production, the tinier circle that we have within our factories is a huge thing that we have in our mind, because working capital is a huge topic, and if we can use our waste and scrap that we are producing, which is produced normally in this kind of production, we do have that in our, not only in our mind, we have it in our processes, and it's the small circle, but also the big circle from the cars and the batteries there.
Yeah. We talk in product design about producing for second use or producing for reuse. It seems in logistics now we need to actually design logistics for reuse and for.
Yeah, we need to do that, and we within the Volkswagen Group we have our mobile charging stations. They are the first, well, not the first, but they are users of the second life batteries. Yeah, and it's a clear strategy, and it's a must-have. We cannot afford to produce battery cells that cost a huge amount of money, and then we throw it away because the logic is there's one cell that is not working properly. And we cannot throw away 500 cells because one is not using it, which is reducing the lifetime and the charging time, etc. So we do have to make this new concept of really a circular economy for everything. And one answer to that is our mobile charging stations, which are in place, which are rolled out now. So yeah, in many aspects, it's a whole new economy environment that we are building up within the Volkswagen Group on that.
It's an important point. I'd be interested to hear if the other panelists have also integrating this into your strategy.
I mentioned, the reversed.
But
yeah, in fact, it's true that most of the industry now is focused on the first use. The inbound to manufacturing, as always in Europe, we are slightly behind Asia, and now we have a problem we need to sort out, which is the first use inbound. However, there's a lot of work already being done on how to set up the logistics for used batteries, which is, again, completely different, and it's a must that we should focus on. But we are having already working groups with that, cross-functional groups that are going to deliver the solution for that. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, from a circular economy point of view, the packaging, the certified packaging we were talking about, which we use for the battery cells or models at the very beginning, can be used for the recycling process as well. Mm. Yeah, you can even use it for damaged batteries as long as they are non-hazardous. That's possible. So that's good, and it's certificated, of course. And from packaging perspective, it's a little impact, but it is an impact. We have a complete circular economy already in place. With the use of recycled material as much as possible, long lifetime, as long as you can use the product, it's better for the environment. You have modular products that you don't need to throw the whole packaging back to the recycling. You can just replace a part, and you can even use it longer. And at the end, you can 100% of the material you can just bring back to the life cycle. You can recycle it and produce new packaging out of it.
Coming close to the end, but there were a few audience. I think we have one more there, and then we'll take over there, and I think that will probably be the last one.
Good afternoon, Phil Cording from Digimark. Matthias, you started going down a route of talking about items from the factory and going through the supply chain, and it sounded like things were not conformed. There wasn't a route that you were looking at, from what I was listening to, that went through the supply chain from you. It looked like you were suggesting that things were going to get lost somewhere with the present system that you've got today. Am I wrong?
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, yes. Because if something gets lost in the supply chain, then, I probably might search for a new job. But that's why I don't want just only copy and paste from the actual situation and the way we are handling our supply chain. To make a precise planning, there still needs to be the sourcing decisions to be taken with our suppliers to make the real design of the network there. But I will take a lot of ideas and things that we have to make this intelligent and to make this collaborative, the supply chain, without losing something, but also without having black holes somewhere where something disappears and suddenly appears. So that's the crucial topic if you're talking about supply chains from that kind of goods in that kind of supply chain from Asia to Europe. And within Europe also the distribution there, we have to make up there a really intelligent network without being able at the moment to tell you, give us 1 year more to have the continuous invitation to that Congress here. But yeah, it's absolutely, it's a must-have. It's a must-have. And I want to have this connected, not only a supply chain until the inbound warehouse, I want and I need it until the end of the customer. And the end of the customer is not is then the car factory. And this is my ambition and my vision about end-to-end transparency. It's a really end-to-end, and it's not from one end to the other and then from the other. It's one whole supply chain, and to connect the data and the information to really have the transparency and the possibility to react and to act properly, and not to push and let then the expedite transport wait 5 hours until the unloading.
I have a suggestion. Perhaps we could speak later.
We'll take there's a final question over there, although Matthias, I will say the invitation is a standing one for the years to come. And indeed, when we probably take a battery logistics conference to Salzgitter or Wolfsburg one day. But let's talk about that also.
No problem, we'll do that.
Okay, thanks. Ben Waller, ICDP. Very interesting discussion. And I was thinking about the discussions earlier we've had about agility, the need to be more responsive throughout the whole automotive business, not just supply chain and not just logistics. You talked about second life for batteries, mobile charging stations. Other manufacturers like Nissan have been looking at how they commercialize second life batteries. And then you've got the whole supply chain, reverse supply chain of remanufacturing, materials reclamation, and reuse. I wondered how able you will be or where you're at with your thinking in terms of being as flexible as you can with the different dynamics of those different solutions. At the moment, my understanding from talking to battery manufacturers is that the materials are so valuable, the prices are so high, that most return batteries are actually, the most valuable bits are the materials within, and so they're taken apart and the materials are remanufactured and reused. Clearly, that dynamic will change as the market matures. The other thing that you've got, which will change, is connected car technology, the ability to monitor remotely the battery health using telematics. That should allow a bit of remote triage of deciding reuse, remanufacture, or recycle materials. And I wondered to what extent you'd build that into your kind of future business plan for return and the whole processing and closed loop supply chain. Big question, lots of bits.
Big question. Let's continue that with the dinner. But quick try to answer that in some words. You have touched 2 or 3 topics, and there are probably 5 more that we have to consider in our plannings, and 10 more to come in the next 5 years that we are not able to foresee at the moment. And that's why I think agility in thinking and openness in redefining ourselves and not being too proud of your past is one of the main mindsets that need to be implemented in this supply chain. Openness in listening, openness in speaking with each other, because service providers are serving. They are not thinking in some ways and in some constellations. And that's what we need to change. And we are talking about that topic, I'm talking about that topic for years now. And it's difficult in a situation that we are coming from in the automotive industry where since the 70s the processes look almost the same. And I hope that we can change in this tremendous change that we are facing in the whole automotive industry, that we can also change the mindset. And that's probably the shortest answer that I can give to your question, and the rest later on.
If I may add, just adding words to what Matthias said, is we need to keep on being visionary, because the reality today will not be the reality tomorrow. And even we do anticipate many opportunities for the future, we will not have the full picture today. So there will pop up something new. We need to be ready to react.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should start thinking. I think just paraphrasing another OEMs is just-in-time times that was from the 70s into the Toyota production system and move on. Now it's just in case. Yeah, we need to move to just in case because we don't know what is going to happen. Yeah. So it's what if a scenario every single day or every single year. So there is going to be a lot of things that we don't know what are going to happen, or technologies that are coming, or issues that we cannot foresee. So we need to be flexible, but really flexible, to try to cope with those, to learn and to collaborate, but this time real collaboration and working together as equals. Yeah? And I think I'm looking forward to the next years in automotive logistics, looking forward to them.
Absolutely.
We are indeed as well. That is definitely a good point at which to end it. I think we have a lot to look ahead to. Perhaps can make the banal but nonetheless important point when Matthias showed a map of Europe with more gigafactories to come, more decisions to be made around them. We talked about this with Jean-François Renaud this morning. Logistics is going to play quite a key role in choosing those locations, in optimizing them and making it all work. This is the opportunity that's in front of us now, and the opportunity this panel has discussed very well and which all of you will share. So that's a point at which I think we'd like to end it. And as Matthias said, we'll continue that discussion well into the coffee break and into the dinner tonight and beyond. So thank you very much to everyone for your input.